Hello, everyone. My name is True Pettigrew, and I am the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer for the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Minnesota Lynx. And I am so excited to be sharing with you all today and introducing you to a phenomenal guest that we're going to have join us today. And this is day two of a five-part series that we will be hosting to help HBCU students understand how they can secure careers, promising careers in the NBA beyond being a player or beyond being a coach, to help you all become more aware of the career opportunities that exist in the NBA. So the NBA has started an HBCU fellowship, and the application process is open right now. And the final day for that application process, for those applications to be submitted, is February 20th. So, over these next few days, we are going to be featuring some amazing guests, some Black leaders and executives in the NBA across a number of different teams to help you all understand how they got to where they are, to give you a sneak peek into their journey to the accomplishments and the achievements that they've been able to make as executives and leaders in the NBA. And so I am very excited to bring on today's guest from the Cleveland Cavaliers, Miss Shelly Cayette. Shelly, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us and your willingness to share some pearls of wisdom with our young people that are watching and will also be watching the replay. Hello, Shelly, and welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, True. So happy to be here and hello to everybody that is watching today. A pleasure to be here.
No. So let's start off with a brief introduction. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what team. I already said you work for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and your role. And see, this is going to be informative for me as well, Shelley. You may be the first and only chief commercial officer that I've had the chance to meet. You may be the only one that exists in the league. So this is you're a pioneer of sorts. So talk to us a little bit about what you do and how long you've been with the Cavs.
Awesome. Well, it's funny that you say that. I am actually the only African American female chief revenue officer, chief commercial officer within the NBA. And by the way, which the NBA is to me a lot more progressive than a lot of other leagues in the diversity space. And so the role you hear it, it's interchangeable. You hear chief revenue officer, you hear chief commercial
Right.
officer. A lot of titles sometimes get changed depending on the company. But the gist of it is the role is responsible for all of revenue for the organization. So when you think of traditionally corporate partnerships, so my background is traditionally partnerships. I've been in sponsorships for probably the last 15 years, and leading now ticket sales revenue. So there's a few main areas of revenue that come to every NBA team and to any team, right? Whether it be NBA, NFL, et cetera. And that's corporate partnerships, that's ticket sales. You got your TV broadcast revenue. You have retail revenue, and those are traditionally the main revenue resources. Depending if your venue is an event venue or not, would be another, right? So I oversee all of corporate partnership revenue, all of ticket sales revenue for the organization.
Wow, that's a pretty significant role with a lot of responsibility. Now, when you first came into the league, were you aware that a role like this existed? For a lot of our students that are watching, a lot of the HBCU students and others that may be watching and tuning in, I'm not sure how familiar they are with all of the different departments you just talked about. You talked about sales and services, you talked about corporate partnerships, you talked about all of these different roles and functions that exist in the NBA, and then chief revenue officer, or in this case, chief commercial officer. Were you even aware that the opportunity that you are living out right now was an opportunity that existed when you were coming out of school?
Absolutely not. So don't be worried if you have not heard about it. And honestly, the chief revenue, chief commercial, relatively new to sports, probably over the last, I would call it 5 to 7 years. You'd see it really start to develop as that next level. Typically, you have people that go from heading partnerships or heading ticket sales, and they just go straight to chief operating officer
Hmm.
which may take some time in between. So this role kind of became one that just became needed by the business, right? As businesses continue to grow and needed to drive revenue, you've seen a focus on it, and I think that's where the role became to be. When I started back in 2017. With the New Orleans Hornets at the time, pre-Pelican days. Um,
Hmm.
I didn't know anything true. I was in the casino industry. So I worked for Caesars Entertainment in casino business and advertising and marketing. And our organization at that time was restructuring and they were moving me to Tunica, Mississippi. And I'm from a very small town of St. James, Louisiana. So I was ready for a little bit bigger city. So I said, I didn't want to move with the restructure. And my boss said, hey, you should go check out this career fair for the New Orleans Hornets. And I went to the career fair. I went and I interviewed for a marketing role, which was similar to what I was doing, entry level coordinator of marketing. I also interviewed for a corporate partnership role, and to be honest, Drew, I knew nothing about it. It sounded really cool. The job
Yep.
description was, helping to activate partnerships and relationships, and I was like, well, that sounds like something I can do, right? And I actually got the interview and offer from the marketing side first, so I just went ahead and took it. And I'm so happy that I
Right.
did because it allowed me to see that side of the business. And so I did that for a year, and then I moved over to partnerships. An opening came, and moved over to partnerships. And I've been in partnerships for majority of my time. I did account management first, then I moved into a sales and sponsorship, and then I actually led our community investment team for a period of time in New Orleans, really focusing on our community outreach, which was a completely different track than sales typically. And it honestly was a hesitation for me at first. But I'm so happy I did that as well because I think all of that led to the well roundedness of my experience. Then coming to Cleveland in 2012 as Senior Director of Partnership Marketing. So I led that team for a period of time and then got promoted to Vice President, then overseeing all of corporate partnerships, a team of about 30. And then now here most recently, Chief Commercial Officer, which is adding ticket sales and adding about 70 to that mix of team members.
Wow, what a journey. So as I listen to you, it sounds like it's required a lot of different attributes and character traits in addition to what you learned in school, the academics, right? That foundation, that educational background is a foundation. But we hear the term a lot lately, emotional intelligence, right? And I think when we go to school, that's the academic intelligence, right? We get that. It's but what I'm hearing from you is it sounds like your emotional intelligence helped you to navigate your career and get to the place where you are as well. Can you talk a little bit about how important the curriculum that you took while you were in school was, as it and also how that was combined with just your level of emotional intelligence and understanding how to interact and engage with different people, right? Because we're talking to a group of HBCU students, and I don't know if I gone to an HBCU, but I had not. But every school that I went to prior to going to college, most of the people looked like me in my neighborhood and area schools. And so I'm thinking, if every school that I've went to, right, where everyone looked like me, how much of an adjustment is it once you get out of that kind of setting in that environment, and now you're in a place where you may not get the same love that you got when you were at that HBCU, when you walk through the doors of that corporate environment. And I'm, just let's just keep it a buck, as they say, for 2 seconds.
No, look, I think it's a real topic, Drew. And look, I'll just be candid. I unfortunately did not get to go to HBCU. It was actually a big topic in my process as I was looking at colleges. Because when I went to high school, it was predominantly white school, and that creates its own. And I say when you think about it, for me, I wanted at that point to experience the HBCU. As I started the process, for me though, going to college, I knew I needed a scholarship, right, to pay for college. Like that was my
Right.
goal. I was going to get a scholarship, whoever offered me the most money, and the best school I was going to go to. And so I was recruited, and Tulane was one of the schools that recruited me. That was local And then I was able to, play basketball again, which afforded me the opportunity to go to school, to go to college. And I would tell you, so having come from that space, I felt like a part of me was deprived because I didn't get to feel that love and that camaraderie that I have, a lot of my friends did, right? And that I
Yep.
would go to Xavier, that was right down the street all the time. My best
Right.
friend went there, so I felt like I got the best of both worlds in that space. Um, but it's a very important topic to think about because I had a community of teammates, right? And so I had a community that I was there. When you get to corporate America, it's different, right? And
Right.
if you've
Right.
never experienced that and nobody's there to show you how to, the one thing that could actually hold you back is having that angst where you're always thinking about it, right? Luckily, I
Hmm.
didn't think about it because I came from a point of like, you know what, I'm just going to be me. And I know I'm an extremely hard worker. I know I get along with people because I've come, from different areas. And even playing basketball and at Tulane, it was a relatively diverse area that we were in. But I knew that I could just talk to anybody, right? So
Right.
I didn't feel like it was a weight on my shoulder. And I think when you go into places and you automatically feel you have that weight on your shoulder because you're thinking the worst, it creates a negative experience for you. So you have to
Mm.
go in, and I'm not saying open your arms and trust everybody, but at the
Right.
end of the
Right.
day, tell you true that the people that helped me get where I am were mentors and people that were like, dang, you know what? She works hard. And I was like, if you give me something to do, I'm gonna overproduce on it. Right. That was my
Right.
motto. Like I'm gonna kill it. But I got that from sports, from school, from my parents, right? And so for me, I went through my career just with that laser lens. And then you look up because after a point in time, I'm like, whoa, yeah, I'm the only one here. Right. And
Mm.
then you start thinking about it. And then you start, okay, well, now I have to produce because I am the only one. So I've got to get it right. And then that pressure mounts on you. Right. And that's real.
Right.
I have to be honest with you. I probably didn't gain the confidence that I have, and which was gradual until much later in my career because you're so focused on you have to do it right and you have to do it better than
Yeah.
your next person that pressure you put on yourself is real.
Yeah, and as a chief diversity and inclusion officer, when I hear you talk about those feelings of discomfort and those feelings of uncertainty when you're in an environment where you are in the minority, right? The dominant majority of the people in that environment do not look like you. That creates what is known as imposter syndrome, right? We and it's real. We wonder, it's like, wow, do I really belong here? Should I be here? And you don't feel that sense of, familialness, right? You don't feel that sense of support and comfort. And this is not to be critical of your colleagues and counterparts, because to the point you made, this is something that you are navigating, right, in the battlefield of your own mind. But a lot of that is conditioning as to how we have been viewed and perceived and treated, from our own lived experiences, and a lot of it has to do with historical context. So that imposter syndrome that you reference is real. So for our audience that's listening in, many of whom will be recipients of the fellowship, the NBA HBCU fellowship, and I'm pulling and rooting for every single one of them. Uh, but when they start their careers in the NBA and even any other corporate environment, what can you offer them to help them to overcome that imposter syndrome that they may feel that you talked about? What are some
Yeah,
things
that's
that helped you?
Right. It's a good question. And I think for me, it was experience through time. Majority of the people that I worked with through were there to support and help me because I was performing. And so I think it's
Right.
important as for an audience for you guys to understand as most people, I can't speak for everybody because there are issues and real issues in organizations, and we're not going to hide that exists. Majority of business leaders just want to have successful businesses. And to do that, they want
Hmm.
talented team members. They are not looking necessarily at what color you are, at what gender you are. If you are performing, they will be happy with you and they will help support you and help push you along. And so I think it's important that you go into it with a clear mind Not like, oh, who's out against me, who's trying, oh, they don't understand me. It's to say, okay, what's the job that you need to get done, and let me do that, and let me show you I'm going to do that consistently, and allow them to support and grow you. Now, if you're at a point in period where you see that over a period of time you're performing successfully as your counterparts and you're not getting the same support and love, then that's when you talk to a mentor. Mentors are so
Mhm.
important in this process. That's where you talk to somebody to make sure you're getting an objective lens of what's going on. Because I can't tell you how many times I picked up a phone and called one of my mentors and, hey, here's where I'm at. Here's where I think I should be. And they talk, okay, well, let me tell you what the real world, let me tell you how, it should be. Some of that is just you're moving too fast. Actually, slow down and actually get the experience that you need. And I'm happy that I had those messages. And some of it is like, all right, well, then you've got to it's time. Let them know and be vocal about what it is your next step, and have that positive conversation with them. And so you need mentors. I will just say that that's very important. But I would just say, to answer your question about the imposter syndrome, when you go into your job, when you step foot in that job, you just assume people want to support you. They want to support people
Mm,
that perform. You go in and you perform and you make relationships. Get to know them. Who are their kids? What's their family? Where are they from? Get personal. The more personal
mm.
and closer you get to people, the more they're going to want to help you.
Nah, thank you so much. I mean, you just dropped some valuable insight and perspective, and I hope I hope they're picking up the jewels that you're dropping right now, because the importance of a mentor cannot emphasize that enough. Mentorship, identify someone who can provide you with that guidance and that direction to help you navigate these waters, because none of us are able to do this alone, and none of us are expected to do this alone. We all need guidance and direction from someone that's been there, that's kind of understands where the potholes are, so to speak, right, to help you to avoid those. I even read a study that suggests that the two things that are most closely connected to long-term success in the workplace are internships and mentorships. And with this fellowship, we're offering one of those, right? An internship in this fellowship to give you the opportunity to get some experience and expertise under your belt. So please apply for this fellowship. The closing date for this is February 20th. Please, we have it listed on the screen. Please go to nbafoundation.com. You can go to nba.com and apply for this fellowship, and tune in for the remainder of this series at nba.alumniroundup.com to hear successful executives in the NBA, such as Shelly, talk about their story and how they got here. But the mentorship and the internships are the two most successful things that are tied to long-term success and achievement in the workforce. And it sounds like you have you learned that early on in your career, the importance of both. Now, for someone that is listening to this and they're super impressed, like I am, with your achievements and your accomplishments, how do they go about becoming a chief commercial officer? So, kind of break that down into two parts. What are some classes or courses they should be considering taking? And I always encourage people to know your gifts, know your strengths. And it's not about arrogance. It's just about, self-awareness. You know your gifts, right? And trust your gifts, because your gifts make room. They open doors that you don't even know exist. You have them for a reason. So what would you say are some of the gifts or strengths and attributes that you possess that help you to be successful? So maybe people that are hearing some of the same things, you know, I love, public speaking. I love engaging and interacting with people. I am very compassionate. I'm a good listener. I don't know what those are, and so maybe people that hear, wow, I have that gift. I have that gift. Maybe I can do this too. So from a curriculum standpoint, what should they be considering studying? And then just attributes and character traits.
Yeah, so I would say again, I didn't know what the role didn't exist when I was coming up, so I didn't know. But now there's a much clearer path. First of all, there's lots of programs that are sports focused. If you want to be in sports, you do not have to do a sports program in order to get to these
Mm,
roles. Right? These roles exist in every industry. There's a chief commercial officer in packaging and manufacturing and other areas of the business. It's not just sports, right? we're lucky to be
Yeah.
in sports, and I love being in sports. I'd say so. I went in business, so my major was business management and marketing. I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do, but I knew that just give me something with business. Most companies, right? They're businesses, right? They
Yep. Yep.
run. So I figured I'd get some type of general understanding. And marketing obviously is a very popular curriculum that people go in. It's not the end all be all. At the end of the day, to be a chief commercial officer, if that's the role that you want to take, you have to understand sales and you have to understand metrics and how to drive a business. So anything business, economics, again, whether it's marketing, management. But look, if you went in psychiatry and you want to change your career, it doesn't mean you can't. It just means that you need to get in an organization and start entry level in sales. You need to understand the sales process. You have to understand how to sell to be a chief commercial officer, right? And
Right.
so really understand. But look, I've learned that over 15 years now in the business, right, of different areas and learning and failing and succeeding. So I think the attributes that you mentioned are so important because I did not want to get into sales. Actually, my boss tried to get me in sales 2 years straight, and I told him no when I first started in New Orleans because I didn't see anybody in sales that looked like me. I didn't know anybody in
Mm.
sales. I didn't want to be the whole car salesman aspect. It was in my head,
Right.
just crazy stuff in your head, right? None of that in the reality was true. What sales is actually understanding. You talked about that emotional intelligence. It's understanding and listening to people, understanding what they really want, and finding a solution based on what you have to give that to them. If you can do that consistently, you will be successful in sales and you will continue to grow and then determine if you want to be in leadership, which would lead to leadership roles, right? A director, a senior
Hmm.
director, a vice president, where now you're running the business and ultimately have goals to hit. So I think the path to me, it's again having that emotional intelligence, being relatable and wanting to talk to people. Some people don't want to do that. I say my husband comes to events with me and he doesn't want to go and talk to everybody in the in the room. For me, I actually enjoy that. So you have to enjoy it too. You have to want to be a people person, and not everybody is, and that's okay. That's totally okay.
Right.
But you got to want to do that. So to me, it's just really, I'd say, being a problem solver, because our world really, it's not rocket science, but there's stuff that you have to get over. And it really is just about listening, understanding people, and working with people collaboratively to get to solutions. And I think that really those are attributes that will help you be successful in this type of role or any sales role.
No, thank you so much. So I just want to unpack that for a second for our listeners, because again, so much value in what you're sharing. Recognize your gifts, understand that intersection point between your gifts and your passions, what you're good at and what you really love and what you care about. If you don't like talking to people, if you don't like being the person that's going to engage in some conversation, getting to know others on a human level, then it's going to be a miserable experience for you if you are pursuing something that requires that, right? So understand your gifts, know what you're passionate about, find that intersection point, and focus on how you can add value. How can you add value to those around you, to the organization? And in doing that, that is a surefire way for you to elevate within the organization, right? So thank you so much. As we are drawing to a close, Shelly, the kind of the standard interview question, right, in a forum like this is what one piece of advice would you give our viewers and listeners to help them to achieve long-term success or to achieve their dreams in working in the NBA?
Yeah, look, I would tell you it's be proactive with relationships. And the reason I say that, when I started entry level, my very first job in the NBA, I vividly remember this. I don't know why, because I have a terrible memory. But going into our head of marketing's office, and just I knew about his family, I knew where he was from. I wanted to know what he was doing because I wanted to understand more. I knew my closest friends in the organization were our head of legal, our head of HR, and this is me as a coordinator, right? They had no reason to want to talk to me, to need to talk to me, but they all did. And I still to this day have their cell phone numbers. I still talk to them. My point is, don't be intimidated when you go into an environment. You want to create real relationships with people, that will help you because you want to understand the business. They can help you understand the business. And in doing so, you can establish real relationships with people that will support you and give you advice. And so I just would say don't be intimidated, be proactive in establishing relationships internally within the organization in different areas, not just one area that you're working in different areas early on. I wish I did it early again, not knowing, and I am so thankful, True, that I did because looking back on it, I think that confidence and those relationships helped to propel me to continue to be successful, and that support.
I cannot thank you enough. Thank you so much. We have a few comments in the chat, and I will convey those to you at a later time, Shelly. But thank you so much for sharing your time, the gift of your time, and your wisdom with us. And a virtual round of applause for Miss Shelly Cayette and sharing her time with us. And please apply for this fellowship. The closing again is on April 20th. We will continue to do these live chats for the rest of this week, all the way through Saturday. Shelly, I look forward to seeing you again. Look forward to working with you. Congratulations on all of your success, and good luck with the All Star this weekend. I know you all are busy, so thank you for hosting the rest of us this weekend at the All Star.
Awesome. Thank you, True, and thanks to everyone listening. Good luck to everybody. Excited for all of you in your careers.
All right, thank you, Shelly. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you, everyone. Please apply. We are looking for you. The NBA wants HBCU students. This will be a memorable experience that you will not soon forget. And remember, we will continue this live series for the rest of the week. We'll be back tomorrow. We will be back on Friday. We will be back on Saturday. And hopefully you can tune in. And if you can't make them all, try to make one. Thank you all again for tuning in. Thank you for those who are watching the replay, and wishing you all the best in all that you do.